Hey, what's going on, guys? Tech, and today we are talking about the glorious Model O2 Pro. And before I get into that, I just want to have a quick update. I do want to apologize. Granted, I was working on an exam for my job, and then I had a couple things after that, and I honestly had a brick just like slapped across my face and just lost any drive to do anything after I took that test. But I'm finally at a point where I feel normal again, so I definitely want to finish out this year strong with the reviews that I had planned. So, with that being said, I do want to hop into the review for the Model O2 Pro. So, let's get started. All right, so getting into the weight and the shape of the mouse, the weight does come in at 57 grams and it does feel pretty optimized. The weight feels good. It doesn't have any kind of weight imbalance in the front or the back of the mouse, and it feels really, really light and comfortable in my hand. When it comes to the shape, the new O2 Pro has that indent, similar to like an M1 or like a Lamzo Atlantis. So if I flip the Lamzo around, you can tell that the Lamzo has that kind of hard indent. This is the same on the O2 Pro. However, if you're looking at these two together, this is definitely thicker. This is definitely a thinner mouse and a little bit longer. So, for those with smaller hands, you may or may not like it. It's definitely on the longer side, definitely going to be more focused on claw. Even palm, if you can get comfortable with that, for those with bigger hands. When it comes to the coating, in comparison to like the original wireless mouse that they came out with for the Model O, this has zero grip whatsoever. Zero grip, zero texture. Like I'm literally already sweating on this mouse. Whereas if you have the Model O2 Pro, definitely is more texturized, and even with sweaty hands, it's not as bad. You could tell. Most of my mice, I've started to use grip tape, just because of my hands, and I feel like it's easier for me to play with. The texture is pretty good, and it definitely felt good whenever I was playing. When it comes to the clicks and the scroll wheel, with several mice that have come out lately, a lot of companies, when you look at the Sora 4K, when you look at the GPX2, this mouse are now starting to move away from mechanical switches, like using the zippy switches. If you're looking at like a HTX, or maybe with like the Lamzu or the Pulsar using the Wano blue switches, companies are starting to move over to opticals. I'll get into my review, holding on to the GPX for about 2 or 3 weeks now, in next week's video. But for this one, for those that know, with all the comments that were made about the GPX right out of the box, they were significantly heavier. These are definitely lighter. I don't feel like I have to like force myself. It's definitely lighter. It's not as light as maybe like a Wano blue switch, but it's pretty close. Definitely one of the better optical switches that I've tried, and coming from Glorious, that is good. When typically in the past, when you've looked at the quality of Glorious, they have been cheaper mice. Whenever Glorious first came out, I remember the original G Pro. Whenever the G Pro came out, a lot of people were moving over to that. And initially, the first mouse that I had, original Death Adder, which is cool, came back. Went from using the Death Adder to the G502. And then from the G502, I got the original Model O wired. And For those that have known Glorious for as long as they've been making mice, they haven't always had the greatest quality, but they've definitely been cheaper. So this mouse, I mean, even for this one, I mean, it definitely doesn't have a texture, but I mean, the clicks feel decent. But I mean, moving over here to the new Model 02 Pro, I mean, it definitely has better clicks. Everything feels more refined compared to like the original mouse that came out. This definitely feels more refined. It feels better in the hand. I mean, obviously with the coating, you could tell that. I mean, if you're looking at the side buttons, this new mouse has a little bit of space, whereas the last one did not. So, I mean, personally, I can't really tell a difference. Whenever I initially started using it in the very beginning, like the first couple games that I played, it didn't feel as good because I kept wanting to move my hand up, and it didn't feel like it was in a good spot. After I played a couple more games, I got used to it. So, I mean, it took me a couple games to get used to where the side buttons were placed, but they're definitely on the smaller side. I prefer bigger side buttons, so it's probably one of the only one of the only negative things that I would say, at least for the switches. I mean, at least the buttons for me are tiny whenever I have big hands, but I mean, I'm probably going to have bigger hands than most. So, I mean, hitting these aren't going to be bad. And even then, I mean, the side buttons aren't bad. I just would prefer a little bit bigger side buttons because these are kind of small. With the sensor, they are using their BAMF 2.0 26K sensor, and we all know what that stands for. The 26K, I mean, I don't know a single person on the planet that is using 26, 32, ridiculous DPI numbers. For anyone that is, please tell me, because I would love to be able to understand how you're able to play games at 20K. That's absolutely wild to me. But at least in terms of polling rates, it does have 1K, 4K, and 8K, 8K wired and 4K wireless. And it is the first time that a company has been able to release a brand new mouse with the 4K dongle in the box. Absolutely groundbreaking from Glorious. So many companies have been offering, hey, you know, we have a brand new mouse. It has 4K. Please buy the 4K dongle separately. And Glorious has been able to do what no company has been able to do yet, and offer the 4K dongle in the box. Absolutely groundbreaking stuff from Glorious. With the last thing that I wanted to touch on is the battery life. So, I mean, if you're using 1K, supposedly you can use this up to 80 hours. I haven't been able to test that yet. But when you're using 1K, getting 80 hours, if you bump that up to 4K, you're getting around 35. So we all know that using 2K and 4K significantly reduces the battery life. If you haven't been able to, you can always watch the video from Optimum Tech that he released recently talking about polling rates. So if you're interested in that, go check that video out. But I mean, the sensor felt really good. The sensor implementation, at least playing, felt really good. I didn't have any issues with it whatsoever. The Glorious Model 02 Pro. Pretty solid coming from Glorious, honestly. I used their original Model O for a long time before I moved on to other mice. And honestly, I mean, this specifically from Glorious for 120, 4K out of the box, with 8K if you're wanting to play wired. Not a lot of companies have been able to do this yet. and the coating is decent. I mean, honestly, for Glorious, this is easily the best mouse that they've put out yet. So if you are a Glorious fan or you're interested in using this new mouse, try it. You know, it's honestly a pretty good mouse. When it comes to the shape, it feels good. The weight definitely feels light. No kind of weight balancing issues at all. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a solid pickup from Glorious. Like I mentioned, I mean, it is the first time, as far as I'm aware, that any company has been able to include D4K right out of the box. And on top of that, you get 8K wired. So, I mean, if you're super into pulling rates, then here you go. This is easily a good pickup. So, with that being said, I do have a few things coming out. So, next week I will be focused on the GPX2 with an additional side note that, or like an additional side review that I'm going to throw in there. I do want to talk about a couple of different mice skates. I wanted to say something, but I'm going to wait for my review. So I have that, and then I have a couple pads, and behind me I do have a few for sale. So I will be throwing that up on Twitter and probably up on eBay for anyone that wants it. So with that being said, I will catch you all next week. If you have any questions, be sure to throw them in the comment section below. I know that I have been super busy, focused on work and other things. So now that I am back, please feel free. I know that I have not been good at responding, but typically I respond the moment that I see any kind of notification. So if you have any questions for this review or anything that you want to see coming up, feel free to throw it in the comment section below, and I will catch you all next week. Peace.